Hello and welcome to the latest of my deep dive videos. This one into the Pisces full harvest moon of the 10th of September 2002. Firstly, I want to share how I'm going to structure the video. I'll share on screen exactly what time it occurs in all the major cities of the world, but it is on this occasion on the 10th in all of them. I'm then going to explore what a Pisces full moon means and give you my insights into how we can use this energy to our advantage. Then on screen I'll share with you an overall zodiac wheel which we can all relate to see what the impact of this particular event is likely to hold. I'm then going to share with you an event chart based on Universal Central Time, which shows an ascendant at 4 degrees in Scorpio, and the moon in Pisces in the 4th house, very sensitive, but the sun in the 10th, very much to do with how we connect to the world. So that's really interesting. I'm then going to look at all the aspects that are interplaying with this particular event on this occasion. Mars is particularly influential this year. But then, please stay with me, I will go through each of the 12 zodiac signs from Aries through to Pisces and give you in detail what you can expect in terms of the sun or the ascendant. Now, if you're new to my channel, I'd be honoured if you'd subscribe. Please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. But if you would like to rise above this zodiac broadcast and embrace more serious astrology, if you give me 3 pieces of personal birth data of time, date and place of birth, I can produce for you your year 23 personal horoscope forecast, but I'll give you the rest of this year free. Also, in my special package of 30% off, you can get the roadmap, the character analysis that can guide you for the rest of your life. These charts are absolutely individual to each person I produce them for, so no two are the same and can give you searing insights. So on the screen now, please see what time this event occurs in all the major cities of the world. So what does a Pisces full moon represent? Well, if we think about the sun in the sign of Virgo, the 6th zodiac sign, ruled by Mercury, but an earth sign, it's very much concerned with practicalities, achieving tangible benefits, sifting, discriminating, being very precise and meticulous in its approach. And essentially, the sun has been asking us to clean up our act a little bit, to be a bit more virtuous in our approach. But as I say, this works at quite a physical level. And the moon in Pisces, and of course Virgo is a mutable sign, like Pisces, but the moon is exactly opposite the sun. The moon takes around about 27.5 days to go through its cycle. So at this point in its cycle, it's about halfway through in its opposition to the sun. Now the moon, on the other hand, located in sign 12, very much to do with reflection, to do with the spiritual domain, and it's governed, this sign, by Neptune, which is very ephemeral and very dreamy and drifting, and the inspirational energies of Jupiter. So the moon being opposite the sun means that they're not integrated in the way they are with a new moon. So the new moon in Virgo, which occurred on the 27th of August, gave them a chance to use both their energies to good effect. So the sun's about drive and passion, determination. The moon's about the more receptive energies of shelter, nurture, sympathy, empathy. And of course, in the sign of Pisces, the moon can be exceptionally sensitive. So I think it's kind of saying to us that if we've been so bound up with trying to refine and reorder our worlds with this Virgo energy, that we stay mindful of the more spiritual, psychological and emotional vibration of the sign of Pisces. So it's about a jolt to make sure that we're achieving integration, that we're not just lopsided with the more material and practical pursuits that Virgo's encouraging us to embrace. So that's essentially what a Pisces new moon is about. Now both these signs are feminine, but the sun of course is masculine and the moon is feminine. So an opportunity really to bring a little bit more feeling to some of those reforms that we've been making recently, and also perhaps understanding what some of the driving instincts are behind the changes we have been making. Now on the screen now, I'm showing an overall zodiac wheel which shows the distribution of the planets around the chart, but assuming that house 1, where Aries is, the start of the Western tropical zodiac is, and you can see that we do have Jupiter and Chiron in this location, but the Sun and Venus are in house 6 in Virgo. But this particular event has a big impact upon it from the hustle bustle energies of Mars, which is in Gemini. But I'm going to share more about that once I share the event chart wheel with you. But clearly, the need to find a balance in our approach is important, and Uranus and the North Node are also influential. They're in house 2, so they're asking us to think about the foundations of our world, the practical foundations, particularly money. And we all know with these headwinds that we're all experiencing in terms of the cost of living, that's a very real situation we're grappling with at the present time. But actually Uranus is in a brilliant trine with the Sun, asking us to be open-minded, and it's in an enabling sextile with the Moon. So Uranus in this particular context gives us quite a lot of support to look at things in a fresh and enlightened way. Now on the screen now we have the event chart based on Universal Central Time, which sees the ascendant in Scorpio at 4 degrees. But you can see that the moon is in the 4th house, which is interesting because the moon rules the 4th house in terms of its rulership of the sign of Cancer, and the sun is in very much the more worldly 10th house. So I think this really feeds in with what we're all trying to deal with at the moment. We're trying to refine and find ways to be more efficient, the energy of Virgo, our worldly interactions, to protect ourselves, the 4th house, the home, emotion, family, especially with the cost of living. We're using our minds a lot, Mars, but there's a restlessness around all this because communication is coming quick and fast and can almost be startling and concerning because so many things seem to be changing all at once. Fortunately, you can see that Uranus and the node and also the path of fortune are all in the 7th house of this chart, suggesting if we can really find the way to relate to one another, perhaps in a new, even more enlightened way. For example, forging community links, especially when it comes to purchasing fuel. So for example, you know, there will be schemes where lots of people can come together to be a minor bulk buyer to reduce the cost for each individual within the scheme. So the kind of collaborative effort can work well, but looking at things in a fresh and sometimes more imaginative way through the energy coming through the planet that is Uranus. So that gives us a flavour of what the more natal impact of this situation is. Now, in terms of each of the 12 zodiac signs, for you, Aries, obviously the position of the moon is very tender for you. Perhaps you're thinking a lot about your work and where you can gain satisfaction from your life. If you do a job where you work very hard, you're very committed, but you get nothing but picky criticism or not much acknowledgement whatsoever, your need for a more supportive environment that can come through the moon suggests you may start to look for another role over the next 2 weeks. On the other hand, if you have been working hard at getting a bit more physically active, especially with your ruler Mars in your 3rd house, and it wouldn't be a surprise, it's also important to find those moments of peacefulness, to relax, to meditate if that's your thing, to just take a breath, or perhaps embrace more holistic medicines in order to feed into your well-being in terms of your physical health too. Now Taurus, for you, this influence is activating your 5th, the Sun, and the 11th, the Moon houses. Time management is going to be something of an issue for you over the next couple of weeks. We can't please all of the people all of the time. And Uranus has been pushing you, along with Pluto in recent years, to be much more of a rebel when it comes to asserting your own needs. But if, for example, you're wanting to manifest your talents or even pursue a romantic opportunity, it may be that it's some of your friends who are feeling a little bit pushed out. What you can do is just reassure them of your intentions, but everyone needs the time and space to focus on what's really important for them. And I think this is, in actual fact, a very good opportunity over the next few weeks to find the balance between all the different people, all the different pursuits you have in your situation, to get things in a more aligned state. Now, money obviously is an issue for many of us at the moment, but Mars in the 2nd house gives you a lot of passion to take on the challenge. It's just that your idealism may need to be blended with the reality of the situation. So there may be some compromises that you will have to make that could prove to be a little bit uncomfortable. But with Jupiter in your 12th house, this is just reminding you that there are lots of different ways that we can look at life. We can make connections that don't necessarily use up a lot of time, but actually give us a lot back. So just be mindful of that. But if someone is demanding a lot from you and it's stopping you from expressing yourself, I think really that's the situation that does need to be rejigged somewhat. Now Gemini, this event for you occurs in house 10, so it's going to be very difficult for you to disguise your feelings, which will potentially be very close to the surface. Now you may think, well, what's the problem with that? You know, if you're in a good space, why shouldn't I share it? Totally agree. But if things are a little bit less settled for you, finding the balance between the home, emotion, family, which the Sun's asking you to think about, but also find the rewards and satisfaction in your professional or worldly role, it's not always easy to get those two areas, those two polarities, just in the right kind of balance. And Mars in your own sign is possibly making you quite impatient for some kind of change. And also Uranus still in your 12th house, although it's forging a very good influence to both the Sun and also the Moon, change comes with some pain. You know, it's even if we go through a transition which essentially is good for us, you know, we meet somebody new that we really like, or we escape a relationship which has been really getting us down, or we move into a new job that is better paid with more responsibility. There's always a downside to every upside. That's life. And I think these are some of the things that you could be toggling at the moment. And that's why, with the moon so high in the sky, if you do need to ventilate your feelings to someone you can trust, this would be a good fortnight to do that. So Cancer, for you, the next 2 weeks is very much about communication. But when isn't life about communication? But the Sun for you in Virgo, which of course is very much about precision, is the 3rd house. This is those everyday communiques, text messages, emails, quick chats with people that we know, perhaps with our neighbours or our siblings. The moon, on the other hand, is in the 9th house. That's to do with higher philosophies. And you have an opportunity over the next couple of weeks to download some really inspirational approaches or outlooks that can guide those everyday communications. Also, Uranus is feeding into this mix in a very vibrant way, opening you up to new people, fresh approaches, and it's all very exciting. Now, it's going to be even more exciting if you're wanting to change some key elements of your life, perhaps also the way you think about things, which could go through quite a transformation now. But Mars is the cosmic fly in the ointment because it's in the 12th house. This can have a tendency to see you drawing up from the depths in quite an unexpected way, some kind of subconscious memory, and then articulating it outwards, perhaps in the blink of an eye, because Mars really brings about quite a fast moving energy in the sign of Gemini. Or it could be that someone's going to confront you with a side of your nature that really startles you. Now, if this kind of stuff happens, try to take it in your stride. Your pattern in the past, particularly with Pluto going through your sector of relating since 2008, has really been to pull the shutters down and to withdraw and really not engage too much. But I feel you have a massive opportunity on this particular event to really stay open to what others are saying. There could be some key information that gets shared that actually on reflection can be enormously helpful and actually truly profound. Now, Leo, this event for you stimulates the second, the Sun house, everyday money, and the Moon in your 8th house is where you're most invested emotionally. Now, of course, the sign of Virgo is very much about details. So very important over the next 2 weeks to marshal your resources in a very precise way. But say you're in a situation where your attitude to the use of resources or money is very different from a business partner, a friend, or even a romantic partner, then this could be a point in the year when you really need to look at this, perhaps between you. Now, Mars is in the part of your horoscope which is pushing you to be a bit more idealistic and a bit more of a team player. If you can bring that Mars energy in, that would be very helpful. Uranus is also in a part of your horoscope to do with how you earn or where you earn a living, the 10th house, along with the North Node. So if your financial situation is a bit straitened, some kind of information you gain from a friend or an associate or a piece of advice can actually be very good for you to make a pitch for a new role, but it may be a completely different role. And that part of you that can resist change is really going to be tested, because essentially the second 8th house axis is a very fixed energy. It's very much in keeping with Taurus and Scorpio. So for you, it's going to be important to just take that step, perhaps into the unknown, and see where it takes you. Because if you show that courage to do so, it could really open up a very exciting vista for you and bring in new money and a new sense of security. If, however, you really want to stick to the group of people you know at the moment or the way you've always done it, and your future plans are going to be pretty much consistent with where things are for you at the moment, you could miss out on this opportunity. Now, Virgo, for you, this event suggests that someone may challenge you over the next couple of weeks if they think you've been far too single-minded in your approach. Perhaps you've been pursuing a strand that's really important to you, that you feel very passionate about, a new business, a hobby, an interest, a friendship, and someone close to you may feel a little bit pushed out. But then it could be you that is feeling that other people are not relating to your situation as well as they might. This could be particularly the case at work, but your desire to raise your profile at the moment is very strong. So it's important to seize this opportunity to make progress. So therefore your relationships might not be at the center of your universe at the moment. So if you do feel that other people are a bit distracted, it may be because you yourself are intent on achieving something which is really quite substantive. Now Uranus, of course, in your 9th house is making you quite restless for a change. And again, that could really affect the status quo of some kind of long-term alliance. So a need to find a better balance between what you need to do for yourself and what others expect of you, but also what you're prepared to give to them, needs to be balanced against the more ambitious side of you, but also a quite freedom-loving side too. So for you, Libra, this event occurs in house 6, where you've got Neptune, which has since 2012 been pushing you to take on more obligations and responsibilities. But the Sun is in that part of its cycle where it's asking you to have a bit of a pause, recuperate, think about what you really want. But the Moon is still pushing you to be of help to others. The next couple of weeks could show up some issues at work where perhaps people are not quite as upfront as you would like. You know, there could be a little bit of politics swirling around. The really positive news is that Mercury's in your sign, house 1, linking brilliantly with Jupiter, the planet of optimism in your sector of relating, and both feeding into Mars in your sector of adventurism. So when we've got a 12-6 axis, it's not usually the time that we think about escapism. But if you can give yourself permission to change things up a little bit, be a bit more spontaneous, even if it's here and there. You know, if you can get yourself a duvet day, and you can do that okay within the structure of your world, that type of thing, that act of defiance could actually be really wonderful. Going out for the day, you know, going and doing some walking or visiting a museum. These type of things can provide a lot of zing to help you deal with these rather tender issues of balancing the needs of others just when your own physical vitality may be at a lower ebb. So for you, Scorpio, the Sun's in house 11, very much about your future hopes and plans, but the Moon's in an area which is much more to do with our immediate need for play, stimulation and sociability. Now, if you are in a romantic relationship, if you both want the same things from the future, this is a chance to really celebrate the unity you share. If that's not the case, the fact that Mercury's parked up in your 12th house could promote a few anxieties. Maybe you will need to think carefully about what each of you wants. Now Mars, your traditional ruler, is also in a very deep and passionate part of your situation. So for example, if you are in a relationship and in lots of ways it works, like the friendship and even the sociability bit works, but the deep sexual chemistry isn't so much there, that could be something that you can yearn for. It doesn't mean to say the relationship has to come to an end, but Uranus in your 7th house is giving you a lot of desire for more stimulation in terms of your links to others. So over the next couple of weeks, I think you could find yourself drawn to people who are a bit more zany, a bit more unpredictable, can change things up somewhat, but that could put a little bit of a strain on any ongoing friendship or close romantic relationship. So Sagittarius, for you, you might find yourself being a bit rebellious over the next couple of weeks, because Mars in your 7th house of relating is going to see you much more assertive around your boundaries. The Sun high in the sky in your 10th house of success, you may be trying to make progress there, and professional relationships could be tested by your desire to gain greater recognition. But at the same time, the Moon suggests that your sensitivities will be important to this too, but the Moon squaring Mars could make you particularly impatient. Also, Saturn in your 3rd house of everyday communication is being buzzed by Uranus in your 6th house of practicalities, and that in itself could make you a little bit tense, maybe a little bit on edge. However, the big picture, with Venus also pretty prominent in the sign of Venus, is very much about your goals and desire to have that success, but you're just being asked with this full moon to stay mindful of how things feel and whether you feel comfortable in the pursuit of those goals, or do you need to pivot and to focus on new ones, but relationships are going to be important to the process. For you, Capricorn, with the full moon occurring in the part of your scope to do with more frequent conversations and interactions, text messages, emails with neighbours, siblings and so on, that's competing with the sun, which is pushing you to change things up, bring more spontaneity and variety into your life. But maybe there's conversations to be had before you can achieve some of those desires to change things. Yet Mars is in a part of your scope that's seeing you with quite a lot of physical energy at the moment, and its T-squared to both the sun and the moon could make you a little tense. And of course Saturn in your second house of everyday finance, your ruler, challenged by Uranus in the part of your scope that sees you want to enjoy yourself and be a bit rebellious. So Mars essentially is asking you to keep your nose to the grindstone, but there's another part of your nature that wants to make some alterations, but there may be some key conversations you need to have in order for these to unfold in a way which is going to be pleasing and positive for you. Aquarius, many of us are dealing with the realities of the cost of living crisis. The second house full moon is about how that feels for you. Where the sun is what the reality of the financial situation is on your future. Now, it just so happens at this present time that Mars is pushing you to be really exuberant, playful, and even perhaps a little bit extravagant. And so there could be some temptations over the next couple of weeks, but with Saturn in your sign, really getting very tight back into that square with Uranus again, a repetition of the energies that were so difficult in 21, the start of 22. But remember, this time you've got all the experience of those past periods to actually deal with the limitations that you may be experiencing. And it's possible that your thinking has even changed about some of the home, emotional and family issues that seem so choppy and difficult, and you found new resources in order to toggle and pivot towards dealing with things, and perhaps can squeeze more out of your existing situation. So I would say on the whole, you've got a real opportunity over the next couple of weeks to think about very carefully the use of your assets and resources, your approach to money, but also your approach to how you feel about your own self-worth, because I think that is something that is going to come to the surface in the next 2 weeks. So Pisces, for you, this event is very much about relationships. If you're not happy in any kind of relationship, whether it's with associates, with business colleagues, or a romantic situation, you're likely to find your voice. And the reason for that is simply Mars, because Mars is in a very defensive, even prickly location, the 4th house, but because it's feeding into this event, if you need to find your voice, you will. And that could surprise some of the people you encounter. But also Saturn in your 12th house, very psychological, back into a very grating, abrasive link with Uranus in the part of your situation to do with your nervous system, but where you need to find your voice. So this is not a time to withhold if you feel that something isn't providing you with the fair respect for the commitment and the input that you put into a situation. So I think you could find yourself quite rebellious over the next couple of weeks if something isn't working very well. But if there's someone you're really drawn to, who really intrigues you, the opportunity's there for you to get off in the relationship on the right foot by setting your boundaries in a very firm and clear way. Then everyone knows where everyone stands, and that actually can engender a great deal of respect for you.